Coming up today on the Locked On Hornets podcast, what were the biggest gambles Jeff Peterson and the Hornets organization took this offseason? We'll discuss who wore it best, and it's another season of Stat Draft. Will I come out on top again? I dropped it again because I won last year. God. I don't know if you remember that. That's all to come today, LOH. I won.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast, and that does include YouTube. There's a Doug Branson right there. I see him every HornetsBoxScore.com, and we can keep you up to date on some news going on in Doug's life. I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Real quickly, before we tell you about some of the news going on in Doug's life, I want to tell you about FanDuel. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. It's almost here. It's basically here. It's almost here, though. It's around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. Okay, Doug, I did not say that you were the host of Locked On NBA like I usually do. And that's because you got some breaking news that I'll allow you to share. Share it with the people, what you got going on.
Well, listen, we like to pull back the curtain occasionally on this show, let you in behind the scenes on the who, the what, the when, the where, the why. We do the things that we do. Right now, we are recording. It is 9 p.m. Central Time. It's nearly 10 p.m. on the East Coast. This is Locked On Hornets After Dark. Now, you are probably listening to this in the morning, though I think we should probably, if we're going to do Locked On Hornets After Dark occasionally, maybe post games, we maybe try to do this live on YouTube. I'm not making any promises because it's what we tend to do on this show. We tend to make a lot of promises, and we don't keep all of those promises, so that's not what I'm going to do here. But we are taping this at night.
But the thing is, we usually make promises, and the promises we break are because we're promising harder things. Going live is, for the most part, easier, so I feel pretty good about going live. At least I think so. Anyways,
well, it's easy for you to say you do it for like 3 hours every day. So it's
true.
It's easy for you to go, and you're not pressing all the beeps and the boops over here. You know, I'm the beep boop presser over here. It's a little tougher for me to go live. All right, so we're taping at night because I've got a new opportunity. And that opportunity means that I cannot do Locked On NBA anymore. Hold for the cries, the gnashing of teeth, the tearing of clothes, because I know many of you were faithful to me and you went over to Locked On NBA. You should keep doing it. You should keep watching Locked On NBA because Matt Moore and Hayes are going to keep rocking it out. But after this week, I won't be doing that anymore. I'll have more details on what I'm doing next soon. But it means we had to change the schedule here on Locked On Hornets, but we're going to hang tough. We're going to do it.
We're changing because look, this is what happens when we all blossom and we end up doing different things. All these individual hosts all around the Locked On Podcast Network. People have to adapt. If you want a show to go on for as long as it's been going on here, we both just experienced our anniversaries. It was my 7-year anniversary with the network. Was it your 9th? Was it your 8th that they celebrated?
Yeah, this is year 9 for me. So it's going to be a decade next year. And I celebrated by quitting one of the shows.
Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah, that's right. The key, you did. So it's weird. It's like a weird 8-9. It's both your 8th and your 9th year. Kind of 2 years you took off, right? Because Nada did it for 2 years. Yeah.
Well, I quit this show too, and so here's the key takeaway, folks. The key to a long marriage is to take a break somewhere in the middle.
On the record, legally, take a break and then get back together. It's totally fine. It works. And you can see the evidence here with Doug. No, excited because Doug is going to a different opportunity that I can't wait for you to share with everybody else. And we'll talk about it then. Until then, you're right. It is Locked On Hornets After Dark.
After Dark.
I don't know what it means. I think what it means for me is that, knock on wood,
less phlegm.
Less phlegm. You know, I don't think you'll see that very often. I really don't. And I am so happy with that. Oh, because the morning is the worst. Watch it happen once we hit wintertime. I also think it means I'll be sharper, because the morning time for Walker Mail is not the best. And at least when I was doing morning radio, I was up enough to like get further and further away from the bed. Here, I'm still not very far away from the bed. So it just feels like in the morning I'm not nearly as sharp as I will be at night, but who knows? That feels like a promise that I won't deliver on.
The tough thing for me, and I promise we are going to talk Hornets in just a second. Just indulge us. It's the silly season. This is our time to open the curtain up and show you what's going on. The tough thing for me is going to be that I have to also wake up early in the morning. I still have to wake up early in the morning. And so I've got to I have a cup of coffee in my hand right now because I want to be on for the people. So I've got to find a way to quickly come down, in a healthy way.
It's a bold choice.
Healthy way. I've got to figure out a way. Maybe it's meditation. I don't know. I've got to figure some way. Maybe it's watching old Bobcats games.
Oh my God! Coffee at 9 p.m.
milk.
Central and watching Bobcats games. That doesn't sound like a good idea. All right, enough about us. That was a selfish segment. I apologize. We need to get back to you, the listener. Let's talk Hornets. Let's talk biggest gambles the Hornets took this offseason. Maybe give you some surface level analysis, give you what we think are the biggest gambles, and then explain it in the second segment. But I'll let Doug explain this idea that he cooked up first. Any specific rules, any confines that were within here talking about biggest gambles? Explain it to the people, Doug.
No, yesterday, because you're probably listening to this on Wednesday, so Tuesday was FanDuel Futures Day. There were a bunch of deals on all kinds of FanDuel bets that you could make, and FanDuel has been a great partner for this show for a long time. And so on Locked On NBA, I decided to do biggest gambles of the NBA offseason. You know, what teams made the biggest gambles, and I thought, hey, that's actually a good idea for Locked On Hornets too. We could talk about the biggest gambles in terms of the Charlotte Hornets, in terms of players, in terms of just the team in general. What are the big gambles? And I think like the first thing that your mind goes to when you're thinking, what are the biggest gambles that are going to really determine, is the season going to be a success or a failure? Well, the easy one's LaMelo Ball, his health. But I think that's too easy of an answer. So I thought we'd dig a little bit deeper and talk about, again, players, schemes, offense, defense, wherever you want to go. Like, what are the big gambles that you see heading into this season?
Yeah, and so if you wanted to just stay there to, one, fill out the first segment with something, and then two, address the easiest gamble to address, which is the LaMelo injury thing. It's the easiest one. It's also the right one, right? Like, or is it the right one? Because I do think that there are a couple of other things that we have coming up in the second segment, but is it really a gamble just riding it out with LaMelo? And a lot of this is framing. What is the gamble? Holding on to LaMelo? Is that the easy way out? Just holding on to LaMelo right now? I almost view it as the latter, Doug, but a lot of what a gamble is framing, and I don't want to get lost in the semantics. Sometimes I do that too much. But it does feel like it's all framing in terms of what the gamble actually is.
No, the Hornet, look, I've been very clear about this. I think the Hornets are they're making a significant gamble by continuing with the LaMelo project, because one more significant ankle injury and that contract that they gave him, well, honestly, that Mitch Kupchak gave him, not this front office, but the front office before gave him, suddenly that if it's not already, it turns into a negative contract if he misses significant time this season. But that isn't really even what I'm talking about. I just mean that if you're betting on the over-under for wins this season with FanDuel or whoever, like the biggest gamble that you're making if you bet the over, you're making a gamble on LaMelo's health, because he, for this team to exceed expectations, the only way that they could do that without LaMelo playing 50 plus games, I keep moving the goalpost back. I start at like 70 and then go to 60 and then work it back to 50. The only way you could do that is if Brandon Miller takes a all-star plus level leap, where people are there are big features on ESPN and all these outlets on Brandon Miller's league. That's the only way you do it.
I agree with that. All right, let's move on because we're not going to get to who wore it best, and I'm desperate to finish who wore it best this season. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
Let's get to more fun gambles because there are some more interesting things to talk about regarding that category. Then it's the stat draft. I don't think that'll take very long. I think there are a couple of easy categories with the first round of this season's stat draft. There's plenty more to get to on Locked On Hornets at night. Ooh. This episode is brought to you by Open Phone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had an urgent need, maybe for a plumber or a service provider, and if that first person didn't answer, did you wait? I'm going to guess not. You probably moved on, and that's exactly why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or your computer. The shared inbox feature is a game changer. Your team can jump into any conversation instantly without missing a beat, and their AI agent handles after-hour calls, answers common questions, and captures leads so you never miss a customer. Open Phone is offering our listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OPENPHONE, openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you have existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. More Locked On Hornets ahead. It's your idea, Doug. Biggest gambles outside of LaMelo Ball. Gambling that he'll be healthy this year. This is finally the year that he'll be healthy after his sophomore campaign where he played a lot of games. What's next on the list?
Not to take us further off track, but the amount of times we've said the word gamble has made me think of Chris Campbell. I'm just getting ready for the Carolina Panthers to kick things off. And I didn't realize, I looked this up during the break, I didn't realize that he spent his entire career in Carolina. Like, I was sure that the last couple of seasons would have been with some other team. But no, from 2004 to 2012, Chris Campbell, cornerback for the Carolina Panthers.
I think he's the most common answer you get for most underrated Carolina Panther of all time. There are other answers there, but he's probably the most common. He's the Gerald Wallace of the Carolina Panthers organization, if you will. So shout out to Chris Campbell, man. I didn't know that's where we were going after dark, but there are no rules once the sun goes down.
All right, one of my biggest gambles this season outside of LaMelo Ball has to do with one of the bigger names that they brought onto the team for this season. Have only watched him play in Cleveland and Utah. I'm talking, of course, of Collin Sexton, and I'm wondering, can he learn to share the basketball? Can he learn to play second in command? And this gamble specifically comes to me via a blurb from my guy Mike Shear of Basketball Poetry, who was asking the same question when he did an article about like things you don't know about role players. He did like 9 role players and skills that you didn't know that they had. And Collin Sexton, it was sort of a reverse skill. Everybody else got like a positive skill, and Collin Sexton got guy who calls for the ball too much. Like he stands in the corner and just like claps for the ball. And he wanted to prepare Hornets fans that this is something that he did in Utah. And in fact, hilariously, at one point in January, he was desperately, I mean, you have to, I'll share the article in the game and the show notes and go check it out, because he shares a GIF of Collin Sexton absolutely begging for the basketball from Isaiah Collier. Collier just waving him off. And then Isaiah Collier takes too long to get the ball up the court, gets an 8-second call, and Collin Sexton just goes nuclear. Like, he just loses it. He's like, dude, give me the ball. Like, it's insane. So anyway.
Yeah. Oh, my God. I love that Collin Sexton. Poor Jazz fans. Here I am. Yes, I am showing pity, the Hornets fan. I'm showing pity on Jazz fans for having to see Collin Sexton not get the basketball. Clearly, that's the better option because Isaiah Collier wouldn't give it up after 8 seconds. You know what's great about that? It reminds me of Kevin Durant calling for the basketball, Draymond Green deciding, no, thank you, I got this. And it broke up the KD Warriors. That's what, well, that moment will go down in infamy as the moment that ruined the Jazz of 2024 and 2025.
So look, I think Collin Sexton probably wanted the basketball because he realized that he was one of the better players on a god-awful team. And so I think he's going to come into this situation, and I would hope approach it a lot differently. But it is a gamble that he has spent so long, playing in the depths of hell that is Utah, that he's not going to be able to adjust to getting playing time with LaMelo Ball, who is going to need the basketball a lot, to Brandon Miller, who is going to need the basketball a lot. They're going to want Collin Sexton to score the basketball. There's no doubt about that. That's why they've acquired him. They're going to want him to get downhill, and hopefully also create opportunities for others via getting downhill. But I just don't know how much they're going to lean on him to create the entire offense. And so I think that's the gamble. Does he take away from Campbell's development? Is he a distraction away from Brandon Miller's development? It is. I'm not super worried about it, but it is a gamble.
I think the gamble comes if he starts. If he comes in on the second unit, then call for the basketball all you want to, and we'll just figure it out with you and Trey Mann in the backcourt. If he starts, that's when you really have to worry about him standing in the corner and calling for the basketball, unless Collin Sexton is in there for Josh Green and LaMelo just doesn't give him the basketball. And when he does, now you have somebody in the corner that can do stuff. So I think there are ways out of it. You have escape hatches with this risk, but it really comes so if he starts with this roster.
And if he plays alongside Campbell, it's not as big of a risk because I think Campbell is an unselfish basketball player and would be more than willing to both seed offensive opportunities to him in the short term. That wouldn't have been the case with Ace Bailey, right? If you draft Ace Bailey and then you also acquire Collin Sexton, then I might be throwing up red flags, red sirens, red weddings. I'd be like, okay, this is not going to work. I can both at the same time see a universe where it works. I can also admit that I see a universe in which Collin Sexton suddenly becomes unhappy and then the Hornets have to work to unload him. I'd rather the Hornets unload him because he's awesome, at the trade deadline and he's an expiring contract. Yeah. And they have some room to maneuver as opposed to, okay, God, this isn't working for anyone. Everyone's unhappy. The season's in the tank. Let's move him then, So, but I can see a world where that would happen.
Okay, so I'm going to fire a couple of them right back at you. Rapid fire, bang, bang. My first gamble is the Hornets going all in on offense and for the most part neglecting defense. It's not entirely true, but for the most part, you neglected defense. That means you have to be really good offensively to win games. You have to be really good offensively to, I think, climb a few rungs to where you want to get to, if not this upcoming season, at least in 2026 and 2027. Because you want playoff experience. You want play-in experience. You want the play-in to parlay into playoff experience. How do you get there? It's not going to be because you're a defensive juggernaut. That's just not how you decided to build your team. So you got to be a top 10 offense this year. You got to score a lot of points because I expect you to be a 25th or worse defense. That's what I expect. Despite having Musa, who I think is really helpful, but he has defensive limitations, especially protecting the rim and really more so deterring guys from shooting at the rim. You have some other defensive-minded players. I think Kalkbrenner does protect the rim, but I think he got manipulated in Summer League. I think Josh Green is a good defensive player, but that's also not a guy that's going to be a top 15 defensive player in the league. Ultimately, you got to be a top 10 scoring unit this year, top 10 efficiency, just finish in the top 10 in a lot of categories because, Doug, it's going to get ugly on the other end of the court. So that's a gamble. Not bringing back Josh Okogie, not going after a center that you can rely on a little bit more so in free agency, maybe not ponying up in the free agent center market. Like there are some decisions you made going all in on offense. And so that would be one risk that I have going into this year.
It's certainly a risk this season. I don't think they built the team long-term not to be good defensively. That wouldn't make any sense. That wouldn't make any sense with Charles Lee. Although I will say, and we've had this discussion before, that look, some teams they go, all right, we're going to go and get as many 3-and-D wings as possible. We're going to go get guys with ready-made defensive skills and defensive talent. And then there are other teams, and I would honestly say that this was how the Boston Celtics were built. We're on, let's go get a bunch of tryhards. Like we're going to have good wing defenders, yes. We're going to both develop those players and acquire those players. But like most of the defensive depth of that team was built on just a bunch of guys that just tried hard, and they weren't necessarily defensively gifted or talented in that way. And so, that's what I see. If there's any upside on the defensive end for this team this season, is that they've got Knipples and Sextons and guys that may not have the talent or the necessarily like the defensive box plus minus is not going to be kind to them, but they'll try really hard, and they might get some turnovers that would even enhance the offense via transition.
Knipples and Sextons. It is Locked On Hornets After Dark.
After Dark.
I want to give you this other one before trying to give you the tease and then go into the next segment because I want to get to stat draft. I want to get to who wore it best. The other one, I told you I was going to be sharper. It doesn't mean I'm going to be smarter. Okay, there's a difference. This is a galaxy brain take that I truly believe in, but I think it's a sharp galaxy brain take. I was trying to figure out what I thought the biggest gamble was, Doug. I was writing down a bunch of options. At first, I thought I was going to go with trading Mark Williams. I was like, okay, look, I get it. It's Mark. You traded him once, but the reason you traded him was because the package was too good to pass up coming back. When you did trade him, you had already traded Nurkic, so the only big guy you were going to have was Musa and the 29th pick and your 2 second-round picks. Good God, that is not a plan at center going into this season. All right, well, okay, it's a gamble keeping Mark, however you want to frame it. It's a gamble taking Con Knippel, except it's probably the safest option you can take there.
Well, the gamble would have been taking Ace Bailey.
Right. So it's a gamble passing up on Ace. It's a gamble passing up on Trey Johnson. But any draft pick is a gamble. It's the lottery for a reason because it's saturated in gambling. So, okay, that's not really the answer. Mas Musa, more minutes for him? Okay. But it's also, I think ultimately, Doug, what happens is, the gamble is that you didn't take any gambles. Yes, that's what I was hoping for. The gamble is you traded for Collin Sexton because you didn't take any money back, and it's just a better player that you're getting in exchange for Nurkic. So, there's no risk. In bringing Gamble in, I get the idea of Sexton. I get what you're saying. But in terms of making the trade, let's say it doesn't work out and you don't trade him at the deadline, you get $18 million free dollars to work with the upcoming year. You didn't take the gamble on Ace Bailey, so now you don't have the high star power potential. You traded Mark Williams, but you didn't go out and get Jared Allen. Maybe you could have done something this year by going after Bam Adebayo and making that risk. Anything like that. The gamble was not making any gambles. Exactly. And Charles Lee is somebody that after maybe 2 years of not winning a lot of basketball games, you don't have 2 good years in a row as an NBA coach. We can all understand the context, and yet at least you're going into your 3rd year on the hot seat. The gamble, baby, galaxy brain all day. The gamble is not taking any gambles.
Jeff Peterson, I'm giving you one more season of buying mutual funds, of playing it safe, of playing the S&P 500. I'm giving you one more season. And then I want to see you take all of those winnings and put it into a crypto coin that's based on the Care Bears. Okay, I want you to get wild. I want you to get risky. I want you to buy swampland in Florida. I'm ready to take risk. I'm going to give you one more year of, buying, I don't know, gold or wheat or, some Chicago Mercantile Exchange BS. I'm giving you one more season.
Professor Coldheart Cash. I can't wait to invest in that currency. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
This is not investment advice.
He's everywhere!
That's a Care Bear name, by the way. I looked it up. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast, who wore it best at number 5, and it's the first round of this year's stat draft. Last segment coming up, LOH. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time? College football is back. Oh my God. The beautiful, ugly Farmageddon game we got in Ireland between, yes, Kansas State and Iowa State. That's a different type of sicko, but you're still sick nonetheless. And I love you. College football is back. And honestly, there's nothing better than the energy of tailgates, being in the stands with your fellow fans. But the only downside is trying to get tickets to those games. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices that jump at checkout. But that's why you can use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. And what you see is what you pay. When you pull up Game Time, in just a couple taps, you can see amazing deals, and you could talk a little bit more about your college football favorite teams with your fans, with everybody else alike, and going to the game together and experiencing all of that good stuff because the ticket buying experience was so easy with Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, download Game Time today. Baby, more Locked On Hornets ahead.
Tap, 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 tap.
Stat drafts. This is your idea. Again, you're the producer. A lot of these things are your ideas. So you get to go first on this. I'll give you the first overall selection in this year's stat draft because that's the kind of guy I am. Okay.
Thank you.
It's who I am.
I'm glad you gave it. I'm glad you gave it to me because I was going to demand it. I was going to take it because you bragged at the beginning of the show about how you won it. So, Mr. Winner, why don't you give everybody else an advantage since you're obviously smarter than all the rest of us?
Go ahead. Take it. I give to you, Stat Draft Peasant, the first overall selection.
All right. Well, let me explain to folks because we have a lot of new listeners, some of them from LA, and I need to explain to them how this whole thing works. So this is our Stat Draft, second year in a row. David Walker will be getting involved in this. He is a co-host, my former co-host on the show, family member, and he is going to come on next week. He can't come on this week. But we will get him involved. He will write in his selection. So he's going to have the third overall selection here. But the stat draft works like this. We look at last year's stats for the Hornets that were on the team last season. I guess you could include some of the new guys if you want to look up their stats in Utah or whatever. And we say over or under those stats. So field goal percentage over for a particular player. We draft that stat. But the rule is you can only draft a category once. You can do multiple categories for the same player, but you can only draft a category one time. So if you take field goal percentage over for a player, you cannot do field goal percentage anymore. I'm also adding a new rule for this year. We're not doing games played. We did games played. It turned in. It made a mockery of the whole thing.
It did.
So we're not. I think David took Nick Richards.
No, the bad one was Seth Curry.
Seth Curry. Thank you.
Seth Curry was the bad one.
It was a mockery. Well, first of all, it's a mockery of the system, and also it's a little bit jinxy for my taste because if you take the over for LaMelo, you're just going to get accused of jinxing him. So we're just going to eliminate games played as a category. You cannot select that. Anything else is fair game. So with my number one overall selection, I think I'm going to take a pretty easy one here, and I'm going over on LaMelo Ball's field goal percentage because it was 3 points lower than his previous season, which was like 43.9%, I think, maybe almost 4 points. And then he turned in a 40% last season. So I'm going to go real basic and go field goal percentage. LaMelo has to shoot better than that. And a lot of that's going to come from health. A lot of that's going to come, hopefully, from getting a little bit more space around the rim because they've added all of these other offensive weapons.
Yeah, it's on the list. It would have been my second overall selection. The man shot 40.5% from the field last year. It's the lowest mark that he's put up. It's not by far the lowest mark that he's put up. He shot 41.1% in year 3 in the NBA, but it's still pretty bad. You can't be an all-star player and shoot 40.5% from the field, even if it's on really high volume, even if you're the only guy. You just got to shoot better. I expect that he will, because he's never shot that low before. With a better team, with better spacing, I have to imagine that goes up. I think that was a first overall pick spent wisely. However, it was not my first overall pick. I think there is an easier one to go with. I think the easier one to go with, my first overall pick, is more minutes played per game for Moussa Diabate. I'm going to go Mas Moussa. Moussa Diabate last year played just over 17 minutes per contest. That has to go up, right? Like, if Moussa Diabate is not playing 17 minutes in a rotation with Ryan Kalkbrenner and Mason Plumlee as the only guys, then I would be surprised. I think, for the most part, it's trade proof. I think if you trade for Jared Allen, okay, let's just throw that name out there, I still think we can get up to 18 or 19, because at that point you probably aren't playing Kalkbrenner nearly as much, because he does the same thing as Jared Allen is supposed to, except worse. So he can shoot, but you're still not playing Ryan Kalkbrenner because of the three-point shooting ability, even if he can stretch it a little bit. So I'm going with Moussa playing over the 17, I think it's 0.6. I just had it in my notes here real quickly, 17.5. So I'm going to go with 17.6 or more that Moussa plays this year per game, Doug.
Yeah, there are a couple of good minutes ones. Minutes might be on the chopping block for next year, too, because it's kind of in line with that games played.
A little cheap.
Mockery.
I was willing to move off of it if you would have said that's a little too cheap. And I can if you want me to.
No. Well,
okay.
You only get one. So I think we can all just take our one. That's fine. Because, I mean, I think knowing now that you have done that, although we have to get David's write-in picks, but honestly, I think there are 2 other minutes per game. I'll just reveal them right now, because I don't think David's going to listen to this episode, so I feel safe in revealing this. Because I think there are 2 minutes per game unders that would be easy to hit, and that's Nick Smith Jr. and that's Josh Green. I think both of those. So Nick Smith Jr. averaged almost 23 minutes per game last season. Josh Green at 27.8. I don't think Josh's minutes are going to go completely in the tank. I mean, I think he still holds some value, particularly on a team that doesn't have a lot of defensive weapons. He is a defensive weapon. I think he will be utilized, but not to the tune of 28 minutes per game. I don't think.
You didn't have bodies, right? Like you didn't have. So even if he's a part of the rotation, which he will be, not enough bodies. He had to play all those minutes per game. So there you go.
I'm going to do an under here. I'm going to steal this one, and it's not because I think it's the safest one to do here. Oh, we're only doing one round, right?
We're only doing one round. All right, so let's get to who we're at best, because I think we're in dangerous
I'll tell
territory.
you, I've got my under, and it's not minutes per game, and it's locked for round 2.
All right, so you got it ready to go. Let's do who wore it best. There is a debate here, Doug. So who wore it best with the number 5 jersey, with, of course, the rules being that you have to decide who wore it best with the player that wore that number with the Charlotte Hornets. So that's the actual game that we're playing. Who do you got for the people today?
We are at number 5. We're getting there, folks. I think we're going to finish it before the season is out. And number 5, a number of players. How many? Oh, goodness. I'm going to have to count now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 players have worn the number 5 in Charlotte franchise history, beginning in 1992 with Greg Grant, who I was excited because producer Katie went on a trip to Asheville, North Carolina, and stopped in a general store of some kind and got me a pack of NBA Hoops basketball cards. And I thought I had a Greg Grant from the Clippers, but it turned out it was my camera's not going to focus on this. Sorry, folks. It's a Gary Grant card. Not a Greg Grant card.
That's okay. Was she in Asheville this weekend? I was just in Asheville this weekend. So if she was, then
it was this past weekend. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. I thought I recognized her.
Passing ships. It's after dark. Anthony Goldwire. Remember Goldwire from 96, 97?
Great name.
Donald Royal. Remember him from 97, 98? Another good guy. Where did Donald Royal play college ball? I feel like he played college ball somewhere significant. Nickname
Notre Dame.
Rock. Notre Dame. Okay. Elden Campbell from 2000 to 2002. And then we go to the Bobcats. Eddie House.
Big one.
2005. Walter Herman from 2007 to 2008. I believe Herman is featured on this list for another number. I think he has a Who Wore It Best. I'll look it up. Juwan Howard in 2009, a little Bobcats Did You Know?
One of the weirder ones. That's the one that always shocks me to see Howard in a Bobcats jersey.
Dominic McGuire in 2011. Gennaro Pargo. I mean, if my heart could give Who Wore It Best, it would go to Gennaro Pargo. We did a segment. I think this was during the David Walker years, not during your years, but we did a Sarah McLachlan in the Arms of an Angel send-off to Gennaro Pargo when he was released from the team.
One of the 4 Hornets point guards that I've seen in an airport before.
Nicolas Batum from 2016 to 2020. That's probably the most notable. James Bouknight in 2022. That's probably the most infamous. And Mark Williams from 23 to 25. That's one of the most argued players on this show.
he gets most argumentative. That's what he gets.
All right. What do you think?
Where you want to start here? Like I think so. Okay. All right. You just named all the players. I don't know if you have any fun factoids, tidbits, what have you, with some of the other guys.
I'm going to look up this Walter Herman thing because I'm pretty sure he won
because you have
number.
to. You just want to see his hair, and that's totally acceptable. It comes down between 2 guys, Nick Batum and Elden Campbell. And I think if you were to put this up on our YouTube page and you were to put up that poll, most people would go against Nick Batum because they hate him so much. It would be Elden Campbell. I actually agree with what I guess I'm just assuming the people would vote for here. I do think the answer is probably Elden Campbell. I think it's tough, but he was a starting center for 3 straight years on some of the most successful teams that we've seen here in Charlotte. And I don't mean just starting half the games. I mean, he started 32 games in 1998, 1999. But those were the only games that he played because that's when he came over in that trade. So then when he becomes a starting center the next year, he plays the full season and he starts 77 games, 78, 74. Just lock it in cement, etch it in stone. He's your starting center for the best Charlotte Hornets basketball teams that we've seen, and they're the last ones. He was also averaging double-digit points per game. Field goal percentage actually pretty bad for a center, I will say that. So the efficiency doesn't hold up nearly as much, but still a good enough player. I think he's like, if you were to look up the top 35 Charlotte Hornets players according to Walker Mail, Elden Campbell makes it, and he is on, oh my God, I just had it in my list. Okay, Elden Campbell is 20th. He's top 20 Hornet, according to me. So I'm going to give Elden Campbell Who Wore It Best.
Field goal percentage doesn't matter. Who cares about offense? Because those teams were built on defense. 99-2000, the Hornets were 8th in defensive rating. In 2000-2001, that improved to 6th. And then in the final season in Charlotte, they were a top 10 team. They just ran into one of the best Nets teams of their franchise history in that 01-02 second round series. But they were a top 10 defense for 3 years straight with Elden Campbell at center. And center, even more valuable. I mean, it's still valuable to have a great center, defensive center, to be a good defensive team in this league. I mean, look at OKC. They've got Ihart. They've got Chet. So it's still important. But it was even more important then when the physicality was turned up to 10 and you needed a big guy because the game was played closer to the rim, and they had one in Elden Campbell. This is just, I mean, I could, just for argument's sake, do Nick Batum so he could send it to a poll, but I'm not going to do that because I have the man's Beanie Baby. Well, I don't have it. My daughter has it.
I was about to say
somewhere.
you don't. Yeah,
She's stolen it. She has stolen it. She has hidden it. I do not know where it is any longer. She ripped the tags off, so it has no resale value anymore. I'm not mad about it. It's Elden Campbell. He wore it best. Congratulations. Number 5 on the list. By the way, update. We did tie on one, number 7. You went Tripucka. I went Jeremy Lin. We did send it to the poll on YouTube, youtube.com/@LockedOnHornets. The people have spoken, and they have given it. This will be no surprise to anyone who covered Jeremy Lin in Charlotte. He won the online poll 79% to 21%. out of 300 votes. Jeremy Lin, War, number 7, the best.
You're telling me Kelly Tripucka doesn't have the YouTube market cornered? I'm shocked that an original Hornet doesn't have the YouTube comment section cornered.
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, well, those are the rules. Jeremy Lin, congratulations. You were at best. And congratulations to you, Elden Campbell. You were at best over Nick Batum, who was second in line. That'll do it for Locked On Hornets After Dark. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods. That includes YouTube. Catch Doug Branson on his Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. That's it. I'm done. I don't have anything else to say. Doug Branson is not hosting Locked On NBA anymore after this week. So go over there and check it out with Doug while you still can, at least for the week, because he's not going to be your host of Locked On NBA afterwards. I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Have a great rest of your day. If you're listening to this in the morning, we'll be back with you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.